knows which lawyer you should choose. Other lawyers know. They've invited Gary C. Johnson to teach his method of judo law in Denver, Atlanta, New Orleans, and across the nation. Gary used judo law to set the record for the largest personal injury verdict in the history of Kentucky. Now, which lawyer should you choose? The choice is clear. Gary C. Johnson. This is an advertisement.
If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson tries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law of Life provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law of Life with Gary C. Johnson and Keith Casebolt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the radio program, Simply the Law for Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, along with Gary C. Johnson. You know, I'm getting used to this new title of the show, my friend. I like it.
I do too.
Life does have laws that are simple, and they work.
Let's hope. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about intelligence.
Okay, you lost me right there at the beginning.
Oh, yes, we're gone.
You didn't tell me that this show was going to be this difficult. I wouldn't have signed up for it.
There's a Harvard research out that says they have concluded that there's 8 types of intelligence. How many times have we said on the show that everybody has something that they can do that's better than somebody else?
Oh, what is it, over 1,000 people or something? How many people
you
is it?
You can do something better than at least 10,000 people.
All right. Each one of us, everyone that's listening to this program right now, you are making the statement they can do one thing that's better than 10,000 people can do.
Right. And what I'm also saying to them,
pretty special.
When you're born, you are given a certain type of intelligence that you can use to make your livelihood. And sometimes we get sidetracked and lose sight of what those intelligences are and get into things we shouldn't be in. So I decided to share this article with my friends. It's written by a psychologist, Kumar, Mehta. Can't pronounce it, okay?
That was testing our intelligence right off the bat, wasn't it?
Testing my ability to speak, my linguistic abilities.
Yeah, yours and mine.
Number 1 that we're going to talk about is spatial intelligence. That's the ability to think abstractly in multiple dimensions. Scoring a 5 means you have a large capacity. I would probably get a 1.
Well, I would get less than a 1 because I'm going to ask you, explain it to me.
Well, some people can go in and look at a room.
Oh.
And imagine the furniture and all the different colors and the pictures and what's on the rugs and everything and see it.
Listen, isn't that amazing? On cable, and I'm sure you've seen some of these shows where they flip the house and the architect will go in and go, oh, we can put this over here and we can redesign the kitchen and this is going to look like this, and they draw it. And I was like, I didn't see anything but an empty room.
Well, and the types of professional people that maybe that has that intelligence, believe it or not, one's a pilot, fashion designer, architect, surgeon, artist, and engineer.
Wow.
Now, if you have spatial intelligence, maybe that's a field, my friends, you want to go into.
You know, it's, Gary, we've got a lot of people that have done this, that build roads. I talked with a friend of ours one time, and I said, how did you even see that road in the mountain that you built to your property? He said, oh, it was easy. It was laid out perfect. I mean, anybody could see it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all I saw was a rock cliff.
Anybody didn't have that intelligence, right?
Isn't that the truth?
Number 2, bodily intelligence. That is your athletes, physical athletic prowess.
Mm-hmm.
If you have this skill, you could be an athlete effortlessly, running down a field and passing a ball, dancer flawlessly, performing a complicated routine if you have this intelligence. It's the bodily intelligence. Potential careers, dancer, physical therapist, believe it or not, athlete, mechanic.
Wow.
A builder or an actor.
You know, It amazes me. I've got a great friend, Gerald Osborne, who's from over at Wheelwright, and Gerald was what I would call a natural athlete. He could pick up a ball, and it was like the ball conformed to his hands.
Mm-hmm.
Any sport he wanted to play, it was like there was no effort to it. Anything I tried to do looked horrible. And it always amazed me how people would have that, what we call it, natural athletic ability.
That's right.
I just didn't know it was a form of intelligence.
Then you have linguistic intelligence. It's the language intelligence that involves sensitivity to the meaning of words, the order among words, and the sounds, rhythm, and inflections, and the meter of words. Okay, what's the careers for those? Poet, novelist, journalist, editor, and lawyer.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, now isn't it amazing, because this is pretty important. Let's talk about this. One of your biggest things that you have to do is you have to gather the information about your clients, and then you've got to tell the story to the jury.
Right.
And you've told me, you've said, Keith, that's where the pressure comes on, because you've got to make sure that you tell the story clear enough and good enough so that they can understand the facts and make the right decision.
But evidently that must have been my intelligence
That was
because
your
I
talent.
probably landed in it to pure accident.
I don't know about that.
And then you have the musical intelligence. That's the sensitivity to the rhythm, pitch, meter, tone, melody, and timbre. This may entail the ability to sing and or play musical instruments. Okay? The careers: singer, musical conductor, a DJ, a music teacher, a songwriter, or a composer.
Yeah. Well, I'm an old DJ, but let me tell you something. I got none of that musical intelligence in me.
Probably why you're no longer a DJ.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. You and I have talked about this. I had a friend one time that was going to teach me guitar, and he said, now I play by ear. He said, I can't read music. I just play by ear, but you just watch me and then do what I do. And I'm like, dude, there's no way I could do that. But it came so easy for this guy that he could just pick it up. I asked him, what chords are you playing? He said he didn't even know.
Number 5, logical mathematical intelligence. That's the ability to analyze problems logically, carry out mathematical operations, and investigate issues scientifically. People with this intelligence, such as Albert Einstein and Bill Gates, are skilled at developing equations and proofs and solving abstract problems. Potential career choices: computer programmer, mathematician, economist, accountant, scientist, and again, an engineer. You can actually have more than one of these types of intelligence.
So a crossover.
You can have a crossover.
Yeah.
Actually, I probably have more logical mathematical intelligence than I do the linguistic intelligence, because I majored in math when I was in school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating that it comes back to engineering, which was also being outside the box and visualizing things.
Spatial, yeah.
Spatial, so yeah.
Number 6, interpersonal intelligence. The ability to interact effectively with others. Sensitivity to others' moods, feelings, temperaments, and motivations. Essentially, it's being able to understand and relate to those around you. And to me, that's probably the most important intelligence you can have.
It really is, isn't it?
If you're going to be happy in this life.
You know, I worked with a lady one time that had the most empathy of any person I knew. And I mean, if she came in contact with a stranger and they told her a story, her feelings and the empathy and the way that she reacted, no wonder everybody loved this lady. She was in sales. She
That's
did a wonderful job.
Interpersonal intelligence. Potential career choices are team manager, negotiator, politician, or publicist.
Another good skill.
Yep. Number 7 type of intelligence is intrapersonal intelligence. And that's sensitivity to one's own feelings, goals, and anxieties, and the capacity to plan and act in light of one's own traits. Intrapersonal intelligence is not particular to a specific career. Rather, it is a goal for every individual in a complex modern society where one has to make consequential decisions for oneself. Potential career choice: therapist. Remember, we had therapists a while ago.
We did.
A counselor, a psychologist, entrepreneur, philosopher, or theorist.
Well, we've kind of been on a journey as of late, you and I, about this inner voice and trying to figure out how to deal with the inner voice and things of that nature. Would that fall into that category?
More likely than not, intrapersonal intelligence. The last one is naturalistic intelligence. This is the ability to understand the nuances in nature, including the distinction between plants, animals, and other elements of nature and life. Potential career choice: geologist, biologist, conservationist, or a florist. Now, those are the different intelligence that he says, this guy at Harvard, that we have, and that you can actually have more than one of them.
Well,
but every one of you has at least one of them.
You know why I'm laughing over here? Because I know we've got friends that are listening to this program right now that are saying, holy cow, I had a little bit of all 8 of them.
Good.
And then there's old Casebolt sitting over here going, I struck out on all 8 of them. I'm not sure I had anything in any of them.
Well, then we go on with another article I read that talks about the 5 mental states that actually hold us back in life.
Now you've got to a category that
Okay.
I think I can relate to.
So I want to talk to you a little bit, my friends, about that.
And these are the ones we don't want.
We don't want these.
Okay.
Sensual desire. Sensual desire is intertwined pleasure, and it arises when we have a deep craving for something that stimulates one or more of our 5 senses: vision, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. Now, what he says about those is it's not always bad to have sensual desire. The idea is that any desire can easily turn into an obsession or addiction that distracts us from our goals. In other words, he says that's one of the things that holds us back in life.
Well, you did a show not long ago, Gary, that you talked about the difference between true happiness and that stimulants that you're going to get from one of these that you just talked about. It could be stimulating at the time, but it doesn't turn into true happiness.
What he says is this: the only way to fight temptation is to think deeply and carefully about the eventual consequences of succumbing to it. The next time a sensual desire emerges, ask yourself, will this help or hurt me in the long run, and in what way? Good question, right?
That's a heck of a question. It would solve us a lot of problems.
The next one, he says, of the 5 that is constantly holding people back in life is ill will. Ill will is the opposite of sensual desire. It is the mental state of not wanting something because of a strong dislike or rejection toward it. It might involve an activity, situation, or person. Negative emotions, fear, anger, frustration, are a natural part of life, but dwelling on them prevents us from moving forward. We just stay stuck in that emotional state. That's ill will. To overcome it, instead of ignoring your ill wills, investigate the roots of it. If you dislike confrontations, ask yourself why. Maybe it's because you've never had success finding solutions to conflicts. Think back to past experiences. What went wrong? What could have been done differently? See this as an opportunity to learn more about yourself by letting go of old ways and trying new ones. Ill will hold you back.
Ill will, the thing that I got out of that you read is you're stuck. Not just held back, but you're stuck. You're not moving anywhere with ill will.
Number 3 is sloth.
Uh-oh. I think we may have found the one that I can relate to.
A state of inaction leads to sloth. It is a result of having low energy and a lack of motivation. Sloth can also come in the form of defeat, self-pity, thoughts of futility, complacency, and even depression. You want to practice overcoming it?
Absolutely.
As with all hindrances, you must identify what led you to this mental state. Then remind yourself of your goals and what inspired them in the first place. Start taking steps to push through the walls, if they can be as small and as simple as reaching out to a mentor or doing some walking with meditation.
Movement.
Movement.
Get up, get moving, get started.
Number 4 is restlessness. Again, these are the 5 things we're talking about, folks, that this article says mental states that can cause you and hold you back. Number 1 is sensual desire. Number 2 is ill-will. Number 3 is sloth. And we're ready for number 4, and it is restlessness. Restlessness is a result of an unsettled mind. This often happens to people who are constantly worried or anxious about the future, or who judge themselves or others for their action. You want to try to overcome it? Observe your restlessness as it is happening. Your mind might be stirring with frustration over something you regret doing the week before. Acknowledge that feeling, understand it, then let it go.
Wow. So people that are holding on to mistakes that they've made. Oh, I'll never, ever recover. I made this mistake 4 years ago. You're saying you got to acknowledge it and go ahead and say, hey, boy, that was a horrible mistake I made, but I can't keep beating myself up for it. I'm going to let it go and move on.
Acknowledge it, understand it, then turn it loose. Number 5, skeptical doubt. Skeptical doubt leads to uncontrollable hesitation and questioning. How many of you out there that's listening was getting ready to do something, go in business or do something big or whatever, and doubt caused you not to do it? This hindrance can be likened to a tub of water stirred with mud and placed in a dark room. The lack of light and cloudiness makes it hard to see clearly. Practice overcoming it. Doubt can actually be your friend. It might exist as a sign that you need to step back to reconsider your options, or it might indicate that something, decision, or given task is a violation of your values. The key is to challenge your doubts. Ask yourself, does the reasoning behind my doubt make sense? Is there logic to it, or is it really just disconnecting me from my goal? That's the 5 of them.
You know how many people have had a worthwhile idea and someone has told them, it's probably not going to work, and they gave up on it. You and I earlier today were on the phone and discussing an entrepreneur that started a restaurant chain. I read a little bit more about his story. He was a busboy. He started out bussing tables. He came up with the idea for a restaurant chain, and he had 80 investors turn him down on the idea until finally 3 doctors from Kentucky said, we'll invest. I think at his death, he had over 600 restaurants and was worth something like $200 or $300 million. And I thought about the perseverance of this guy. 80 people in a row said no, and it won't work. But he didn't give up. He didn't have the problem that you read about.
That's right. It's the thing about life, folks, is everybody is unique in some way. In fact, everybody is unique in a whole lot of ways.
Yeah.
When I say that, I mean it. You don't have the fingerprint. I've never seen 2 noses that look like of you.
No.
And that uniqueness isn't just on the outside. It's on the inside. And that's why it is so important, my friends, to understand your own worth based on who you are, not what someone else is.
Mm-hmm.
and understand that you have one or more, or maybe all of these intelligences we've been talking about.
And probably not aware of it.
Never tried to use it, maybe.
Yeah. Or maybe you tried to use the one you didn't have.
In other words, you have an intelligence that makes you useful for the rest of us to get a benefit from.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Don't waste it, my friends. We need you. We need you to use that intelligence you've got. Society needs it.
Gary, tell me if I'm reading this right. If, with all our friends listening to this program right now, if there's any out there that says, well, I don't have it, I'm just little me, if you sat down with them and talked to them for 30 minutes, I would imagine that you would uncover all kinds of hidden talents, hidden information that you would be amazed about these people with.
I've never spent time with anyone that I wasn't amazed at all the things that they could do and had that I didn't.
That they kind of took for granted or thought it was no big deal?
Didn't think it was a big deal. Didn't know they were worthy. Didn't know they had all those special qualities. I mean, they listened to that voice inside them that told them they didn't have them.
Yeah, kind of like my friend who carved the bear for me with a chainsaw. And he said, it's really no big deal. Yeah, it is.
So who says
it's a pretty big deal. Not everybody can pick up a chainsaw and carve a bear out
That's
of the log.
spatial intelligence.
Yeah.
He could see that bear in that wood.
Easily. Yeah, he looked at the log and said, this one's going to be perfect. And I
have trouble seeing a bear if he's chasing me, let alone seeing it in a piece of wood.
But you know enough to run, and that's Gary intelligence,
That's exactly right. Okay.
Run and ask questions later.
Get out of the way.
What I find fascinating about this, and I was thinking when you were on the way over to the studio to do the show, whether we're talking about our inner voice, whether we're trying to find out what our calling in life is or what our intelligence is, it is so fun to learn and to ask questions and to consider things.
Well, I'm just trying to share some of the things that I read with my friends. Some of it may mean something to you, some of it may not. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all struggling to get through this life.
Same
and
thing.
We're all struggling to find a little bit of happiness and peace of mind and contentment. Where you lose that sense of happiness and peace of mind is when you start believing that you're not worthy and that you weren't given the gifts that you needed. You were. And life has beat it out of you into thinking that you're not worthy. And you've got to undo it. You've got to stop, and you've got to say, I'm as good as anybody. There's nobody better than me. Unfortunately, I may not be better than anybody else, but I can live with that.
Isn't that surprising to us? I mean, even though you've said it over and over again, but why are we always shocked when we hear about the person that's worth millions of dollars, but yet they're going to therapy because they have problems, or they're worried about their family, or they're worried about finances? They've got the same issues, the same fears, and the same problems that you and I have and everybody else has.
And it's dealing with those voices inside of our head.
How do we get through the day and try to make it as happy as we can make it? How do we handle all the things that come toward us?
That's right.
Because you've said there's going to be problems.
Oh, no, never.
Well,
everybody that's listening that has no problems, raise your hand, okay?
You know, one of the great shows that you did a show and you called it Life's Potholes, and you talked about all the potholes that were ahead of us. And someone wrote in and said, yeah, we need to fix those highways. So that wasn't the potholes you were talking about. You were talking about the potholes we run into as we're driving through this life of ours.
But the thing about it is I want my friends to keep in mind, with all those problems and all those things that's floating around out there, life is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Just to be able to be alive is so wonderful that it overshadows all of those things.
And Gary, when you wake up of the morning time, and especially here the last couple of days, sun's been shining, it's been beautiful. You wake up, you look outside, and you're like, what wonderful things can happen today? I'm here.
That's right.
I have an opportunity. I have a chance.
And now that I know I'm intelligent, let's move forward, boys.
Hey, and for those of you that had all 8 of the intelligence, congratulations. For those of you that had all of the 5 things that are holding you back, get rid of them.
That's right.
All 5 of them. You gave us a lot to think about. And that's, I guess, one reason we renamed the show, Simply the Law of Life. What you put in it is what you're going to get out of it.
And my friends are going to put it all in.
That's
They're
our
going to
plan.
go all in, aren't we, guys?
Hey,
Gals. Huh?
Gary, listen, don't try to do this. Gary and I have already got the market on this long dash. Whenever we pass, our dash on the tombstone is going to be longer than anybody else's. That's what we're working on.
That's the plan.
You can catch Gary's television show Tuesday nights on WYMT, your CBS affiliate, at 7 o'clock. If you are in Central Kentucky, you can catch it on your CBS affiliate late night on WKYT. An early morning broadcast takes place on your Fox affiliate in Central Kentucky on Monday morning, and will start your weekend on Friday morning, right around 6:30 a.m. If you need to get in touch with Gary, Gary at GaryCJohnson.com. He'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
My friend, thank you so much for the lesson. I think this is one that you and I'll continue to talk about, and so will our friends. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you so much to tuning in. Simply the Law of Life. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.
Who really knows which lawyer you should choose? Other lawyers know. They've invited Gary C. Johnson to teach his method of judo law in Denver, Atlanta, New Orleans, and across the nation. Gary used judo law to set the record for the largest personal injury verdict in the history of Kentucky. Now, which lawyer should you choose? The choice is clear. Gary C. Johnson. This is an advertisement.